Today we are making this simple and practical crochet washcloth. It's beginner friendly, it works up quite quickly and has a lovely soft texture, and the best part, the stitch repeat is very easy to remember. If you have leftover cotton yarn sitting around from other projects, this is the pattern perfect for that too. You can make solid colors, you can make stripes, or even make a matching kitchen set that you can use in the kitchen for washing dishes, wiping surfaces, or even as part of a handmade gift set. Simply add more chains for width and more rows for length based on the pattern gauge to get the dishcloth, washcloth, dish towel, or even a hand towel. Whatever kind of surface wipe or washcloth you want to make, this is the pattern. I've provided more details on the modifications and how you can get it to the length and width you want, depending on what you want to make, all in the blog post linked in the description box, and everywhere else where links can be linked. Although I first learned this pattern using a really tiny hook and fingering weight acrylic yarn, more about that later. For today's tutorial, we'll be using DK cotton yarn. I like the cotton yarn because it's absorbent and durable. If you also have bamboo yarn or bamboo cotton yarn blend, it also works very well. A 3.5mm crochet hook. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a yarn needle to weave in those ends later on. Let's begin. Let's begin. I have a knotted mess. I should just go slowly with that one. Why did I do this to myself? Maybe I'll just talk to you as I'm getting this untangled. So, one thing I really love about washcloth projects is that they are practical without needing a huge time commitment. You can do them in the shortest amount of time. They are also really nice for practicing tension, for learning stitch placements, and for getting comfortable with just reading your crochet. And this was actually a pattern that my mom used to teach me how to crochet, and for years I made nothing but dishcloths, years upon years. And looking back on it, it has built so many important crochet skills. And now I'm using the very same idea with my niece. We started with finger chains just to get comfortable with yarn and movement, and we're almost ready to move on to using a crochet hook. Yay! If you'd like to watch that process, I'll link the finger chain video in the description, and of course everywhere else where links can be linked. Oh, don't do what I did. Do not do what I did. Learning moment, teaching moment right there. Slowly but surely. Oh, I think this is the last knot. Oh, that did not go as planned, did it? Nope. Patience pays off. So, take two. We'll begin with a slip knot. This is a very chill pattern, so you can work in multiples of whatever you want, like 3, 2, 4, 6, 7. But I'm going to go ahead and start with a chain of 32. So we start with a slip knot. There we have it, 32 chains. Now we'll start by working into the third chain from the crochet hook. This is the loop on your hook, the first chain, the second chain from your hook, and this one right here is the third chain from your hook. So you're going to work a double crochet into that chain. And into each and every chain across. You want to work this first row slightly tighter than normal, especially if you don't plan to add an edge to your finished piece. This is because the nature of the pattern makes the following rows a bit tighter than the first row. This was actually one of those very first practical things I learned to crochet as a child. Back then, I used a tiny hook and acrylic yarn because that's what was readily available for us, and I would crochet the kitchen cloth. Sometimes I made them smaller just for dishes, but other times I made them bigger so they could also be used for wiping surfaces. And somehow this simple little cloth stayed useful through every stage of my learning how to crochet. And here we are, years later. And honestly, you can easily adapt this same idea for your own crochet journey. You can take whatever stitch or technique you're currently trying to improve, whether it's single crochet, half double crochet, post stitches, granny squares, what have you, or even color changes, by the way, and turn it into your own custom washcloth project. That's one of my favorite ways to practice crochet, making something useful while learning at the same time. If you need help with this, I have a crochet stitch library and a crochet techniques library, both here on YouTube and over on my blog, orinshop.com, where you can explore different stitches and create your own easy crochet dishcloth variations. Right? Awesomeness! So that's your first row, and once you reach the end, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work. Now, instead of working into the stitches themselves as you normally would, we are going to begin our work by stitching between the posts of the double crochet. This length over here of the double crochet is what is referred to as the posts. So instead of going into the stitch right over there, we are going to go into the space between the posts over there. So you're going to DC into that space. Then move directly into the next space and double crochet into it. Double crochet into the next space, and you're going to repeat this pattern across the row, just working double crochet in between the posts, which is the spaces between the double crochets. So this is what the entire pattern entails, just double crochet upon double crochet between posts. So after the first row, the entire pattern becomes very repetitive and very relaxing. And this is honestly one of my favorite kinds of crochet. The kind where your hands slowly memorize the rhythm and just get to moving. And this makes a wonderful project for evening crochet, or when you're listening to a podcast, or watching homesteaders like I love doing, or simply slowing down for a little while and making a project that can be completed in the fastest amount of time possible. Right? And you can count your stitches every row to make sure that you're getting the right amount of stitches. For this one, since I chained 32 and started crocheting in the third chain from the hook, I have a total of 30 stitches that will carry through for the entire pattern. So you can count your stitches in each and every row until you get the rhythm and the hang of the pattern. So when you get to the end of the row, it's a repeat of row 2. You're just going to chain 2, turn your work, and work double crochets across in the spaces between the posts. Simply continue repeating the same row until your washcloth is the desired size. Now let's quickly talk about keeping your edges straight. A few things that will help here is make sure you don't accidentally skip the last space between posts, and that space is usually between a post and a chain 2 stitch, so don't skip that place right there. Also try keeping your tension consistent, especially with the turning chains, and if your edges start leaning inward, this usually means that you've skipped a stitch somewhere, and if they begin expanding outward, you may have accidentally added an extra stitch. So just be keen, even if you are doing this while watching something or doing this as a mindless project, to make sure that you've inserted your hook in the right place, not added or subtracted stitches. The nice thing about textured patterns like this is that mistakes usually become visible fairly quickly, which makes them easier to fix quite early. So you'll simply continue repeating the same row until your washcloth is your desired size, and for me this size works, and it's going to be 6 inches by 5 inches. That works really well. What I really like to do is hold it in my palm and see if I'm scrubbing a plate or if I'm wiping surfaces, if it's the desired size that I want. Just get practical with it so that you can see, because I know hand sizes vary, so you might like it smaller, you might like it bigger. It's up to you. It's soft, slightly airy, lightly scrubby, and still flexible. I love it. And this pattern, it also works really well for a baby washcloth, especially if you make it in pastel colors. Oh, cuteness. You can make maybe 3 or 4 of them and gift them to a new parent, which is really awesome. This can make a really nice gift, and you can continue adjusting the size as baby grows. Now technically you can stop right here because the stitch already creates a nice neat edge, but if you want it to feel a bit more polished, especially if you're gifting it, let me show you my favorite simple border. So if you're not fastening it off at this point, you're going to chain 1. So you're going to work a single crochet border for the first round of this crochet border. And what I like to do for patterns like this is, in the area where you see a double crochet as the last stitch, you're going to work 2 single crochet stitches, and in an area where you see it was the chain 2, you work 1 single crochet. So you're going to alternate between 2 single crochet in one post and a single crochet in the next. 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet in the next post, all the way through to the first corner right there. Then when you get to the corner, you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and work a single crochet into each one of the chains, the bottom of the chains across. The last stitch for this side is going to be worked right below that double crochet over there. So we're going to chain 2 for the second corner, turn our work, and since this is a post that has the chain 2, we are going to single crochet into that once, and then 2 single crochet into the next one. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and you're going to alternate like this. When you get here, you're going to chain 2 and then work 1 single crochet on top of each double crochet stitch. Now you're not working into the space, but actually on top of the stitch right there. When you get to that last double crochet stitch, which is actually that one over there, make sure you don't miss it, you're going to chain 2, and into that first single crochet that you made, we are going to slip stitch into the back loop of it. That's our first row. You see it's given our piece a bit of structure. This row is going to be worked in back loop only. That's why we slip stitch into the back loop of that first single crochet from the first round. So from here, you're going to chain 1, single crochet into that stitch, chain 2, single crochet, skip 1 stitch, single crochet, chain 2, then single crochet, skip 1 stitch, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and you're going to repeat that until you get to this first corner. You can see it's adding a nice edging. It's so cute. When you get to this corner space, you're going to work into that chain 2 space. You're going to single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2 again, and single crochet. So in the same corner space, you're going to have 3 single crochets and 2 chain 2s. You skip the next single crochet, and in the next you work the pattern. Single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, you skip the next, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. When you get to the end, and let's say you have a single crochet left and you've already worked in the previous single crochet, you're just going to skip it and work right ahead into that corner space, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet again. You skip the next space, you skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and you repeat the pattern all along this edge. When you get to this corner space, you single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2 again, and single crochet. Then you're going to skip that next stitch and work the pattern, which is single crochet, chain 2, single crochet all across. When you get to this last corner space, you're going to work single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet, and you're going to slip stitch right into that first single crochet. Leave a considerable amount of yarn that you can use for darning in and fasten off your work, and bring that piece to the back. Ta-da! And that's it. Now all that's left is weaving in those ends and enjoying your finished washcloth. If you'd like to know how I weave in my ends, I'm going to link a tutorial in the description and everywhere else where links can be linked. This also makes such lovely handmade gifts, by the way. Maybe for housewarming or just gifting someone. You could also pair them with soap, with kitchen towels, or even a matching dishcloth set. As I told you, you can head on over to the blog where I provide details on how you can either make the pattern smaller or make it bigger, how many chains you should use, how many rows you should go depending on your gauge and the yarn you're using. And honestly, I think there's something really comforting about making useful things with our hands. Simple projects like this may seem small, but they become a part of someone's everyday life, which I think is really awesome. When you give someone something that they can actually use,